Have you ever really thought about what a company like Apple or Amazon actually is? I mean, they're more than just buildings and products, right? They're a very specific legal invention called a corporation. Today, we are going to pull back the curtain on this absolute powerhouse of the modern economy. We'll dig into how they're built, what makes them so powerful, and what it truly means when you own even one single share. Okay, so picture this. You've got a brilliant idea. You're ready to go, ready to build your empire. But hang on. Before you even think about a name or a cool logo, you have to make a decision that will literally define everything that comes next. What's the legal structure of your business going to be? And trust me, if you get this wrong, you could be putting your own personal finances right on the line. You know, a good way to think about it is like choosing how you're going to travel. Are you a solo act on a scooter, maybe a duo in a fast sports car, or are you building a massive tour bus that's designed to carry thousands of people? Each one of those options has a totally different set of rules. Now, take a close look at this chart, and I want you to focus on one row in particular, liability. See those first two options? If the business goes under, you go under with it. We're talking creditors coming after your personal savings, your car, maybe even your house. But then, look at the corporation. That phrase, limited liability, that's a legal shield. It creates a wall between the company's debts and your personal stuff. This one idea is the superpower that allowed modern business to just explode. So yeah, let's put this whole corporate structure under the microscope. In a lot of ways, it really is like a legal superhero, with this special power that completely separates it from the people who created it. And that separation, that is the key to understanding, well, everything else. So here it is, the core concept. And I'll admit, it's a little weird. The law literally treats a corporation as an artificial person. Now, it can't breathe or have feelings, but it can own property, it can sign contracts, and it can even be sued in court, all completely separate from any actual human being. It's a legal fiction for sure, but it's a fiction that has enormous, real-world power. And this legal separation gives corporations some huge advantages. First, like we said, that incredible shield of limited liability, protecting the owners. But, and this is important, if the owners do something illegal, a court can actually pierce the corporate veil and break right through that shield to hold them responsible. Second, a corporation can basically live forever, long after its founders are gone. Third, it makes it way easier to raise massive amounts of money by selling off tiny pieces of itself. And fourth, it creates a really clear chain of command. Okay, but this is where it gets really interesting, right? If the corporation is its own separate thing, its own legal person, then who's actually in charge? Who gets the profits? Who is really pulling the strings here? Well, the answer is surprisingly simple. The owners are the people or institutions that hold the company's stock. We call them the shareholders. A shareholder, or you might hear stockholder, it's the same thing, is anyone who owns a piece of the company. Each share they own is just a tiny, tiny fraction of the total ownership. So hey, if you own stock in a company, congrats, you are officially a part owner. And when you take every single one of those little slices of ownership and add up their value, what you get is the company's capital stock. Think of it like the total financial blueprint of who owns what. Let's stick with a really simple analogy for this. Just imagine the entire company is a giant pie. When a company issues stock, all it's doing is slicing that pie into potentially millions or even billions of little pieces. But here's the twist. Not all slices of this pie are created equal. You've basically got two main flavors. Common stock is the classic slice. It's what most people think of, and it usually gives you voting rights, a real say in how the company is run. Then you have preferred stock. With this, you usually give up your right to vote, but in exchange, you get VIP financial treatment. You're first in line for profits, and you're first in line if the company gets sold off. So it's a pretty simple trade-off. Do you want power, or do you want priority? So what's one of these shares actually worth? Well, way back in the day, a stock certificate would have something called a par value printed on it. It was a pretty arbitrary number. Nowadays, that's almost completely irrelevant. What really truly matters is the market value. That's the price it's being bought and sold for right this second on the stock market. And that price is driven by everything from company profits to just plain public opinion. So besides just selling your stock for more than you bought it for, how else can you make money as an owner? Well, dividends. This is your cut of the profits. We're talking about actual cash paid directly to you, the shareholder. But, and this is a really big but, they are never, ever guaranteed. So who gets to make that call? It's not the shareholders, not directly. The power to decide if, when, and how much of the company's profits get paid out as dividends, that rests entirely with the board of directors.
All right, so you own a share of stock. What can you actually do? What does that ownership really get you? Let's open up the shareholders playbook and find out. See, owning stock isn't just about the money. It's also about power. You have the right to vote for the board of directors, the people at the very top of the food chain. You have a right to get those dividends, if they're declared. If the company closes down, you get a piece of whatever is left. And you have the right to look at the company's books to make sure everything's on the level. These are the core powers that come with being an owner.
But with all those rights comes a ton of complexity. When you have thousands or even millions of different owners, all with their own voice, well, it can lead to some serious disagreements and conflicts. This separation of ownership from the day-to-day running of the company is both one of its greatest strengths and potentially one of its biggest weaknesses.
And that really brings us to the final and maybe most important question of all. At the end of the day, ownership is power. So if you had that power, if you could actually influence the direction of a major company, what would you change?